Now, House Intelligence Chairman Adam Schiff sat down with CBS Evening News anchor Norah O'Donnell Thursday to discuss where the inquiry stands now.
Republicans say the rules are unfair. Are they?
No. In fact, the rules are very much the same as they were during the Nixon impeachment, during the Clinton impeachment. But look, all they have to argue is process, and even the president has acknowledged that's a failure. And it's been a failure because we have had over 100 members eligible to participate in the depositions. The Republicans have been given the same amount of time to question witnesses as the Democrats. When we go to open hearings, that will be the case too. The American people will get to see, both with the release of the transcripts and with the conduct of the open hearings, that they're fair and they're equal to both sides.
But as we get ready for these public hearings that everyone can watch, Republicans say they're concerned that the Democrats will block the witnesses that they want to hear from. Can you assure them that you won't reject those witnesses?
Well, we've asked them for a proffer of which witnesses they think are relevant. And I have to say we have concerns that they're going to propose a bunch of witnesses that have no bearing, that they can use merely to smear the president's opponents or for other improper purposes. It's important to note that, to the contrary of what they have been saying, in both Clinton and the Nixon impeachments, the minority did not have the right to call witnesses on their own unilaterally. They could call for a vote, but it was a majority vote that they were not assured of winning. So we would love to hear who they're interested in having come before the committee. But given the kind of circus-like tactics, the storming of the skiff and all the stunts the president, puts them up to, we can't surrender the process to the minority party.
Do you expect there will be public hearings this month?
It's certainly my hope that will be the case. What has been difficult is that from day to day, we're not always sure until the witness shows up whether they're going to show up. Obviously, the administration has been making a consistent effort to prevent these witnesses, to obstruct their testimony. So sometimes we don't know until we see the whites of their eyes if they're going to show up.
Today's resolution allows you to publicly release some of the transcripts of these closed-door depositions. When do you expect that may happen?
It's going to happen soon. We're still going through some of the transcripts to redact personal information or anything that could be even potentially classified, although we think that's a very small or non-existent category. But I think as soon as early next week, we'll be able to start releasing transcripts.
And what do you think the public will learn from them?
I think the public will see that the process has been fair. Both sides have had ample opportunity to question the witnesses. I think they will see facts that cause them great concern about the president abusing the power of his office. And, the best protection for the country is exposure. And I think that making these transcripts public and letting the American people see what the president has been doing is going to be very important. It's obviously going to be important as we go forward for the public to hear directly from these witnesses. And that's why we will be moving, I hope soon, to the public phase of open testimony.
You're a former prosecutor. Many of the witnesses that you've deposed that have worked at the State Department, worked inside the White House, is a lot of their testimony tracking? In other words, are they telling somewhat of the same story?
I think there's a pretty consistent narrative. There are always going to be differences between witnesses, and sometimes those differences are quite innocent, and sometimes they're not. And I will leave it to the American people to judge the credibility of the witnesses. But I think we're getting a pretty clear picture of the events, of what led up to that call, of the president's conduct on that call, what took place after that call, the conditionality of the military funding that Ukraine so desperately sought, and the conditionality of that meeting that Ukraine wanted between the two presidents on the deliverables, that is, investigations Donald Trump wanted of his political opponents.
Do you think you'll be able to call and hear from Rudy Giuliani?
I'm not going to comment on specific witnesses, but obviously we're looking at the variety of witnesses that are left to be deposed or that we would like to hear from, and making strategic decisions about
Do you need to subpoena Rudy Giuliani?
I don't want to comment about a particular witness.
Mm-hmm. What about Ambassador Bolton, who was serving as National Security Advisor? Do you need to hear from him?
He certainly has very relevant testimony. We would like to hear from him. And we hope that he will answer the call of duty the way other witnesses have. I have to say I've been very impressed with the people who have come forward, that they've been willing to do so, understanding that's their lawful obligation, and they're not willing to capitulate to a White House that is occupied by someone who considers themselves above the law.
Colonel Vindman, testified this week. He was on the call. He also reportedly testified that the call summary had some gaps, some omissions. Do you believe those omissions are significant, and do they suggest that the White House may have doctored or in some way left those out for a specific reason?
First of all, I think Colonel Vindman is a genuine American hero. This is a Purple Heart recipient, and we are grateful for his service. We have not yet released the transcript. I only got authorization to do that today, and so I can't comment on the particulars of his testimony. So I'll have to defer that question until we do release the transcript.
You mean the transcript of his deposition?
Yes.
So you're suggesting we may learn more when we all read this transcript of what the questions back and forth by committee members was?
Oh, without a doubt. I mean, you'll see all the questions that were asked of Colonel Vindman and the other witnesses and what their answers were, and then people can evaluate the significance of anything that might have been omitted from the call record or wasn't omitted.
Who had ultimate authority to edit that call summary, or as the president calls it, a transcript?
You know, I can't get into the particulars. You know, all I can tell you is we have had testimony on that issue. I think when the transcripts are released, they will shed light on that issue, but I can't go into the substance.
Information that's not already been publicly reported.
Well, you know, I don't perfectly track everything that's been publicly reported, and I couldn't tell you what's accurate or inaccurate without commenting on the transcripts. So I'm just going to have to defer that until the transcripts are released.
Finally, the whistleblower complaint. This whistleblower up to this date is anonymous. His identity has been protected for the most part. Are you concerned that his or her identity may become public soon? And what effect would that have on this impeachment inquiry?
I'm very concerned about the president's threats to whistleblowers, the degree to which there are public reports that this whistleblower in particular has had threats against his or her life. And I am deeply concerned about efforts to out the whistleblower. And there have been times during the questioning of witnesses where it certainly appeared there was an effort to out the whistleblower. And I've made it clear to all of the colleagues on our committee that we will not be a part of and we will not permit questioning that is designed to out this whistleblower so that the president can exact political retribution. You know, I would hope that members on both sides of the aisle would be speaking out about the need to protect whistleblowers, this one and others. But I have to say I've been deeply disappointed that my colleagues have been largely silent, and they should recognize that Donald Trump won't be the last president of the United States. They may very well want other good people of good faith to come forward in future administrations, and that what they do now, whether they countenance the president's threats on this whistleblower, will affect our ability to root out corruption in the future, no matter who the president of the United States may be.
Chairman Schiff, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.